All right, we're live, and now I'm going to just go change the privacy so everyone could watch it.
All right. Is there like a chat or something or?
Let me see. Yeah, people could chime in. There should be something on your side that if you see, you can click so you could see the conversation and questions and everything. There's something there.
Oh, okay. I see a private chat and then I see comments.
Yeah, you could probably see the comments. So I don't have anything private set up. So people, hey Rob, what's going on, buddy? So we'll give people a minute here.
Sure.
What time zone you on up there, Has?
We're on Eastern Standard Time up here.
Okay. All
So it's
right.
dark now.
Okay. What part of the state you in exactly? The
Um,
country.
well, I'm in Ontario, so I'm about 45 minutes west of Toronto.
Okay. Oh, good deal. All right.
Yeah.
So you're not in the middle of nowhere like some of my Canadian friends.
No.
You know?
I'm far enough out. The internet isn't that good, but it's still about a 20-minute drive to everywhere, so I can't complain.
Yeah, because I got some buddies that are way out in the mountains out west in the Rockies. I got a good buddy who's out on Prince Edward Island. I'm not sure how he lives there. It's a whole, and he's successful. He has a great dog training business, you know.
In PEI.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, my buddy Duke. You know, he does good business, and I'm like, if you could be successful there, you can be successful anywhere.
Yeah, because I don't think there's room for more than one.
No, there's not much going on there. What are you drinking? Tea? Is this in for the Queen or something or what?
Well, I like my tea. I know you're a Scotch guy. Are you a whiskey guy or a Scotch guy?
Both. I like my bourbon. I like my Scotch. I like both.
Well, I'm one of those Islamics, so I don't get that. I have to drink tea.
Okay. So let me ask you that. The name, where does it come from? That's one of the things I actually wanted to ask you.
Well, that's a Kurdish name.
Okay.
Yeah. So my dad's a Kurd.
Uh-huh.
So, they're in northern Iraq.
Okay.
They're in that mountainous region in northern Iraq. So they're kind of their own people.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's a Kurdish name. He decided, I guess my parents wanted to be unique.
Nice. That's interesting. That's one of the things I want that, because of course we're going to talk a lot about dogs, but I want, I'd love to know more about you too, like on the personal side, because what everyone sees, they only see the dog stuff. And sometimes they forget that there's a person, a regular freaking dude behind there. It's just not always all about dogs, So we're 3 minutes in, we got plenty of people on now, and more will be joining. This will
be that? You got whiskey going there?
I do. I got a new bottle that someone just gave me. I'm trying. And so I'm testing it out tonight a little bit. I just got back from New Jersey with all my lifelong friends up there, and I swore I would never drink again, but I get nervous during these things, like I get all worked up over everything I do.
Yeah.
I like to just settle down. But like I said, a lot of people are waiting for this. Nothing's off the table. We could talk about anything. We could piss off a lot of people, I'm sure. But I know I'm going to get nothing but honesty from you. And so that's pretty awesome. I've tried to ease up a little bit over the past couple of years on the request from my wife to please settle down a little bit. And, so anytime I see you post something political, I'm living through you.
Political in dogs or political in terms of politics?
Politics.
Oh, yes.
Dogs makes me
happy. The difference I think between us is that your business is a lot on Facebook. Yeah. For me, my personal Facebook, there's like really no business going on there. So I can put whatever I want there, and I do.
Yeah, and Haz, I've never cared about that. Like I've never, and this is just my opinion. If I'm dealing with someone in any line of work, I want to know who that person is, right? Even if I don't agree with everything you think, I don't like someone that hides all their personal beliefs just to keep everyone happy in business. I can't do that, So I'm kind of an open book there. Is it the best thing for business? No, but I really don't give a damn. I can't go against the things I believe. I just can't.
It's funny because, I know people for a fact, they've contacted my facility and they've talked to my guys. And I found out, multiple times people have creeped me on Facebook. And, they've said things like, I know he's a misogynist, but we just had nowhere else to go. Or I know he's a Trump supporter, but, they'll say things like that,
Well,
So,
this is funny. The first question that popped up into my head, and then we'll get to dog. This is literally the first question that popped into my head. I said, okay, Trudeau and Biden, naked Jello wrestling in a kiddie pool. Who wins?
um, on paper, Trudeau should win, but he's the kind of guy that would find a way to lose.
Exactly. All right. So let's tell everyone you're up there in outside of Toronto. How long you been in business up there?
At this particular location, we've been here since 2016.
Okay. And what got and I usually hate these questions because everyone always asks the same stuff, and I hate that. But I really am interested in knowing all about you, how you got started, because the one thing that I love about what you do, for years, I've been pushing the pet dog people to really learn from the working dog people. Like, if you're going to be great on the pet dog side of it, you just have to work with the greats on the working dog side. And you're definitely involved with both.
Yeah.
And you breed also, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have the pet dog stuff. I'm pretty sure you compete in IGP or are competing or have competed, and you have the breeding program. So you're getting to see it from all sides. But I saw you say something the other day. You came down and you were working with Diamond Hansel, right?
Yeah.
I wish I would have known beforehand. I was very close to you. I'm not far from there, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just north of Nashville in Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
So everyone thought you were down here and we were doing something together, and that's why we were doing the live now,
Ah.
But you said, so you were talking to someone, I don't know if it was Diamond or Christine or someone else, comparing like how much more difficult so much of the training is on the pet dog side, and they didn't believe you. They
Yeah, that wasn't Diamond, but that was somebody else.
Yeah. And so I deal with a lot of working dog people too, and what I love about the sport world and the working dog stuff is anyone you deal with, for one, they want to be better for the most part. They already have usually a good amount of dog knowledge. At least they've tried to. They're always trying to improve, and you start way further ahead of the game. And you're usually working with halfway decent dogs, sometimes great dogs.
Yes.
Of course, on the pet side of things, the majority of the time we're working with the average dog owner that knows absolutely nothing about not even training dogs, but even just living with the dogs. A lot of times they're dealing with a genetic mess. Nothing about the history of the dog. The dog already has so many bad habits and behavioral problems. You're not starting from zero. You're starting from negative 100. And you have to go from negative 100 just to zero to get started.
Yes.
And when I heard you say that, I knew we were kind of along the same lines with that. And you do both, So what do you got to add to that?
Yeah, I would say the most dangerous dogs that I've ever trained were pets.
Sure.
The most high risk dogs, the most challenging dogs in terms of dealing with their behavioral issues and deep seated genetic predispositions that were not productive to life in the modern world, have certainly been pets. Now, I have certainly dealt with a few real nasty working dogs too that have given me a real run for my money. But in terms of raw numbers, and then when I look at myself and then all my staff member in terms of the damage that's been caused, certainly the pets are leading the way with the danger level and the complexity level in terms of dealing with the behaviors. And people don't, like a lot of the working dog people, I feel like they don't really believe it until they see it, you know. They don't really believe it until they see it. They see some of the stuff, you know, like I recently, I'm sure you saw it, one of my guys lost half his thumb.
I did see that.
You know, yeah, and it's like that's the kind of thing that can go down when you're working with certain kinds of dogs. You know, the pets helped me be better with the working dogs, and the working dogs helped me be better with the pets. They both
100%.
complemented each other.
Bravo, 100%.
And I'll say this before you know, and I'm sorry, I hope I didn't step on you there. I'll say this about, you know, some of the working dog people. Some, you know, some of them, obviously, the most fantastic trainers that I've worked with, and the trainers that I pay money to, are all working dog trainers. But I'll say that a lot of them, when they try to bridge over to pets, and I've seen it time and time again, a lot of them struggle.
Yeah.
Because it's a different market, and it's a different need, and it's a lot of the skills transition over, but what works for one isn't going to necessarily work for the other.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I'm like 100% on board with that, you know, and you can get away with a lot more with the working dogs. They're a lot more forgiving. Yeah. You get a nerve bag, a shit bag of a dog that's been through hell, or who's just so insecure about life, and, you know, it decides, you know, I really don't want to do this. Then a lot of people on that side of the fence, when they come over to the pet door, they take it like, oh no, you're being defiant, you're an asshole. No, I'm going to make you do it. And there is no recovery from that.
Yeah.
You know, that's a really, really difficult situation. But at the same time, when you learn how to walk that line on both sides, man, it's just, and I say this all the time because I always give credit where credit is due. I was doing pretty damn good on the pet world side of thing. I was training dogs for a long time, a lot of shitty dogs. And the first time I went and worked with Bart Ballone, it changed everything for me. Like, I didn't know the dogs that I saw out there that day that he worked with, I didn't know existed. Like, I had never seen dogs like, I had dogs that tried to kill me. I had dogs that were just really nasty dogs. I had never seen dogs with that much intensity and drive to do something, and that would jump through a brick wall to get to what they wanted. You know what I mean? Let alone see somebody take them and channel that energy and fix the problems that people were there. I was blown away. It changed everything for me. It changed absolutely everything. And from that day on, I got obsessed with learning that side of things. And I train all my dogs and all my clients' dogs. If I could train a client's dog, I don't care if it's a Pekingese, if I could bring out that working side, the play, the drive, the interaction, I'm going to do it. That's always what I'm going to shoot for. You know what I mean? And it's just so beneficial for everybody, for both sides, you know?
Yeah, I agree. You know, it certainly helped me with the pet stuff, because, you know, I used to be more. It's interesting because my career kind of started with both. Like, I actually didn't just exclusively work with pets. Like, right off the hop, I've always had an interest in the working side of things. So I was kind of dabbling in both simultaneously. Yeah. So I got to kind of see both sides of it. Nice. And, you know, as the evolution of my abilities as a trainer and my training system have gone on, they've come closer together. They're still not together, but they have come closer and closer together. You know, and there's that line to walk. You know, I think I'm probably just judging by what you're saying in relation to, you know, and what I've heard you say in relation to pets about, you know, playing with them and building that relationship, so on and so forth. And I strongly believe in that. You know, that's something I'm always on my guys about. That's something I'm always looking to do with the pet dogs, is to build that play relationship. I didn't used to do that too much. Sure. I was more like, here's the training system. Here are the standards. we're training to this standards, and we're not leaving any dog behind, whether or not he or she wants to be left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to really be more on that. Now I'm still on that, but what I do now is I do focus on trying to build as much cooperation as possible and as much play with the dogs as possible, which again, understanding the dogs and the drives from the working side of the equation have definitely, helped me open that more.
Gotcha. Now, if you had to make a choice, your maker, whoever you believe in, came down and said, you got to pick business wise. You staying on the pet dog side or the working dog side?
Business wise?
Yes.
Pet dogs, man. We got to pay the bills around here.
Okay. Now it comes same maker comes down and says, now just for your enjoyment, where is your heart? Which one you sticking with?
Working dogs.
Yeah, sure.
And I'll tell you why, though. The pet dogs was actually my primary interest. Like I was really, and I still am, but I was like super obsessed and fascinated with dog behavior. I really wanted to understand why they did what they do and how to change what they're doing if it's not productive. Like that really was super interesting to me.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to me for the longest time. But I've been doing it for years. So now the challenge that's really still, like, I still feel like there's so much to do there is on the working dog side of things. So that's why I would say that.
Sure. No, I totally get it. Look at me. I'm training my first dog for competition. The amount of work that I have to do, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And here's the thing, if you look at my older Malinois, Luca, and a lot of my dogs that I've had in the past, I've trained them to do all the exercises except for tracking that you do in IGP. They've done it all, right?
Yeah.
I've always been halfway decent at teaching it, but there was no pressure to teach it for competition.
Yes.
And so I did it because I loved it. And what I realized with Dante is Luca, my old Malinois, was doing more at 5 months old than Dante's doing at 18 months old. Because I've been so hesitant to mess things up. And although I know how to teach the behaviors, and maybe not the best way, I don't know how to package it in the best way for competition. And that's why I turn to people who know much better and have done it before. So I'm not arrogant enough. Hey, Oscar, I'm not arrogant enough to think that I could prepare my dog by myself going to competition and kick ass. I'm not that ignorant, I'm not that stupid. So I have great people that I can call and say, I'm having, what's the next step? What should I be working on? Because I know a lot of people like to teach one behavior at a time for the competition, maybe two. And I'll start off like that, but then I like to take a little break and move on to something else. You know what I mean? And so right now I'm working on some new things. And to be honest, one of the things that kept me away from competition is not only the time requirements, but tracking. I hated it. And now I love it. I completely love it. Like I'm obsessed with it and I truly enjoy it. And that's my favorite part out of all three things. What is your favorite area out of the three for IGP?
Well, everybody always says all three phases are obedience. But I mean, obedience is involved, but there's certainly different emotion in all three phases.
Sure.
I would say that my favorite phase has always been obedience.
Yeah.
I find it the most interesting phase, and I find it the most enjoyable to train. Like you, I have a love-hate relationship with tracking. Sometimes I love it, and sometimes I hate it. That's it. For me, it's obedience. I love obedience.
Well, dude, Dante's been doing pretty good with tracking considering who his teacher is, and I certainly haven't tracked much all summer. It's been a brutal summer here. And he's done real good with articles and all that. He's getting much better, especially, like I said, considering how much time I put into it, which isn't enough. But yesterday I go out and I go to train And first I'm working on the retrieve, and he's been doing great with the retrieve. And now he's just like he has no training. And now I'm a little pissed. I'm like, what? I should have just stopped and went in, but now I'm like, no, what the hell is going on here? I got to figure this out. So I went too long there. And then we go do a little tracking, not even tracking, just articles. I shouldn't even say tracking. And all of a sudden, my dog is downing 10 feet before an article. And I'm about to explode. And I did lose. I got so pissed. I literally told him, get the F away from me. Go, get out of here. I was just so mad, man, And so I had to the rest of the day, I had 3 play sessions with him. We just played. I did nothing else. I didn't want to do any training. And I went out this morning and did some tracking, and he did superb. And I made the track very difficult, with shitloads of corners and lots of articles, and he hit every one. But you have to understand, sometimes, just like people have bad days, he was just like, I don't really feel, and it's not like he was flat or dead.
Yeah.
He was as fired up as ever. He was just like he was a complete friggin' idiot. You know what I mean? It's just,
for me, that's what I love about IGP. I mean, wait till it happens to you on a trial, and you go out there and you're like, yeah, I'm expecting mid-90s on the track, and you go out there and maybe he gives you a DQ.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, and I find it so fascinating because, on trial day, there's no corrections, there's no rewards, there's no anything other than the training that you've done and the tools that you've installed that allow you to be successful out there. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I've learned, and I'm still learning, is how to put all those tools in place when you recognize, hey, because IGP is really where I began to understand emotions in the dog, and really being able to read the emotion in the dog, that and decoy work. But when you go out there and you're like, oh no, he's off. He's not feeling the way he needs to feel in order to excel at this specific phase. Mm-hmm. Putting those tools in place in your training that allow you to rekindle that emotion, basically turn that emotion on like you start a car and fix the problem before it sinks your ship, so to speak. That's the real key. And, I'm still learning to master that, especially on the tracking field. I think I started to get there with the obedience, but on the track, it's like.
Now, do you have trouble because of your winters up there? Do you have to do most of your tracking in the summer?
No, I can't. I mean, we do tracking. I mean, there's about 3 months of the year here you really aren't going to be tracking. And then if you're hardcore, you're tracking when there's a little snow on the ground and it's muddy and freezing out.
Okay.
But realistically, there's only 3 months of the year that you're not tracking, maybe 4. I think the real difference is, the foundation that you lay and how hard you work.
Sure.
And in the past, I'll say, I know for a fact my work ethic hasn't been there. And IGP, if your work ethic isn't there, then it shows on the field,
Sure. Yeah, I'm the same here. I have not put enough work into it. And a big part of it is, just like you have the business, I'm always working with someone else. And between the traveling from the seminars, and I still have young kids, it seems like and I know if I'm going to get real serious about it, I'm going to have to do a lot of that work, from 4:30 a.m. to 6 a.m. And that's just what it's going to have to be, because once you get involved in the day, you're dealing with phone calls and clients and little things here. And I've said it recently, and I say it all the time. I've always had so much respect for the sport dog guys that not only succeed with one dog, but they do it with dog after dog at the top, and they're on the podium all the time. That blows me away, dude. That I have so much respect for that. It's just crazy. So you have a good online program. I've heard great things about it. People are very, very happy. Your students that you coach online.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're hearing good things.
Yeah, very, very happy. But yet, what's important for people to see, I don't know if you drove down with your dog or what, you traveled a good way to come down to Tennessee and work with Diamond. Okay. So what was the motivation behind that, and why did you choose to come work with Diamond?
Because I knew my tracking wasn't where it needed to be. I knew there were some holes skills wise, and there were some holes emotion wise in my dog.
Mm-hmm.
And I was concerned that I was training in a way that was a bit self delusional about what the dog could and could not do. And I didn't want to find out the wrong way at a trial. So I said, let me go down. I knew Diamond was a fantastic trainer because I've trained with him before when he's come up to Canada for seminars. So I knew he was a fantastic trainer, and he's really good on the tracking. So I said, let me go down with my dog. It's going to be a 13-hour drive. It's going to be 100-degree heat.
Yeah.
I'm going to basically I'm going to put my dog in a difficult position, and I'm going to see what's really there. And I'm glad I did that because indeed it was worse than I thought.
Really? Yeah.
So, you know, and it really kind of gave me the push to make some changes, and it's certainly not fixed, but I think we're certainly along the journey that we need to be on right now.
Well, when you get to a certain point, little tiny changes or things you learn are really big changes, you know, because it gets harder and harder to find things that will help you. You know a lot of stuff about training dogs, right?
Yeah.
And the good thing is you put your dog in a situation where you're traveling, the weather sucks, everything. That's good trial preparation, everything you did.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely everything you did, you know. So
yeah, that's the big thing. And it's like, you know, you got to recognize when you haven't been somewhere before in training. So it's like, sure, I've trialed multiple dogs before, but with this particular dog, at the place I was in tracking and the foundation, I laid a completely different foundation on this dog than I've ever done before. And I was like, you know what? I know what I've done, but I'm not quite sure right now where I'm going. And I need to go and liaise with somebody who for sure knows where they're going and has been there multiple times at a high level with their dog. And that was the whole goal of why I went down there, and why I'll continue. I'll always, like, 2-3 seminars a year I'll go to.
Sure. Do you train with the club up there by you?
No, I have a small training group that trains with me, but I don't train at a club.
Okay, because the one thing that I have found in the IGP world, if you train with someone, if you train with the club, even like from time to time, there seems to be a lot of rules and animosity if you want to train with other people, and I can never understand that.
Yeah, that's why I don't do very well with clubs.
Yeah.
I've tried it multiple times, and it's, I mean, it's never quite worked out well for me.
Sure.
So, you know, I've found it kind of going my own way, and then I'll come out to the club and support it. If it's like an open training day or if it's a trial or something, I'll come and support it. And that's my relationship with clubs. But being a member, it just doesn't quite work for me. I like doing my own thing too much.
Yeah, no, I got you. I'm kind of with you on that one too. What who's been your biggest influence on the sport side of things?
You know, that's a tough one because there's been different trainers at different times that have really kind of resonated with me. I would say the first biggest influence, and I still use this stuff to this day. I would say I went to a Yogi's Egg seminar way back when. I can't even remember. It was like maybe 6 years ago, 7 years ago. Went to a Yogi's Egg seminar, and I saw a lot of really functional and useful stuff, and I still use a lot of it to this day. You know, he's a Nepo guy, and you know, he's been on the world level. So I really liked Yogi, and I really liked his frankness as a trainer, like very frank and direct in his training. So I really enjoyed that. I would say probably single. He's been the biggest one, even though I only went to one of his seminars. Like he definitely had the most impact on me.
Well, that's interesting, because here's what I find today that a lot of people suffer with, especially in the pet dog world. They have a bad case of seminaritis. Okay.
Yes.
And they go from seminar to seminar to seminar to seminar, and they never stop. And you never see them progress
Yeah.
because they never put the time and effort into doing what they've taken from each person. And usually they haven't taken anything from each person. They're there to be entertained.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's a really big problem. And when
Hey,
I
the
went
dog
that
side?
what's that?
You said the pet dog side?
Oh yeah.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, big time. It's a really big problem. And I watch and I see these people, and you know, I remember the seminar I mentioned the first time I went to work with Bart that blew me away. I kept going back
Yeah.
only to Bart seminars. And at one point he said, why do you keep coming back? And I'm like, because I take something every time. But if I went a year between going to one of his seminars, that whole year I was trying to perfect everything that I had learned from the previous. I never stopped.
Yes.
And so someone asked me last week, it was a good question. They said, what's the most like obedient dog you ever had? And I said, well, there was two. There was Bruno, my Rottweiler that a lot of people knew, and Luca, my Malinois, who's still alive. And I said, a big part of that was I've been very good at raising dogs, well-behaved dogs for a long time. But Luca was the first puppy I got where I took what I knew how to live with a dog and create a wonderful dog, a very stable dog. But it was also the first puppy I ever had where I took everything that I learned from Bart and threw it into that puppy, into that dog, which, by the way, had nothing to do with e-collars. So when everyone thinks Napopo, right away they think e-collars, right?
Yeah.
That puppy never saw an e-collar till he was 9, 10 months old. So there was no training with it. But all the little things that on the pet dog side, you don't understand and don't know. When I took it, I became obsessed with it and it never stopped. And to this day, I've never been to a seminar for a pet dog trainer ever in my life. Not saying that there's nobody I wouldn't go to. I just never have. Because
Same.
I always knew I needed to learn the working side of things if I was going to have an advantage and give the people that trust me on the pet dog side the best that I could possibly give them. And so that's been that. Has there been anyone on the pet dog side that's influenced you?
I've never been to a pet dog seminar.
Yeah, we are a lot alike.
I'll tell you this though. I'll tell you this. The one I watched. So when I decided I was going to train pets, the way that I actually started researching it was through this wonderful thing called YouTube.
That's funny.
So, listen, I read some books and whatever else, but nothing really was like, wow, like this makes sense. A pet trainer that I always watched and I was like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing, was Don Sullivan.
Okay, yeah, old school. Mm-hmm.
Now, I know he's a gun dog guy
Yeah.
too, but I watched his work with pets and I was like, like I knew like he would talk about like dominance and stuff like, oh, the dog's not lying down because the dog's dominant. Like I knew that really didn't work for me, but the mechanical work that he was using was very effective. And I didn't see too many other people able to make a product the way he did. Now, obviously, there's some dogs that wouldn't work so well with.
Sure.
But I really liked some fundamental principles of the mechanical work he was doing. So I would say, of all the pet dog trainers that I've seen, he was the one that I actually I took some stuff from him.
Oh, dude, there's so much knowledge on the bird dog side, the hunting dog side of things. So much knowledge. Like there's some phenomenal people out there. You just don't see much of them. You don't hear a lot about them. Yeah, it's their own little world, and they stay in that world. But
yeah,
it's an absolute beautiful thing watching someone who knows that what they do with any kind of hunting dog. It's just an incredible thing to watch. It really is. And so everyone can learn a ton on that side. You know what I mean? Do you have any competitions coming up?
I've made the decision to not trial until I feel that my dog is where I need him to be emotionally on the track.
How old is he right now?
He's 2 and a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, he's about 27, 28 months.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in no rush either with mine. I'm in absolutely no rush.
Yeah, we got our one last spring.
Mm-hmm.
And, that was enough for me. I know we need to back off and focus on the fundamentals to make sure that's all good before we go back to it.
Okay. And what did your training look like up until that point to get your one with him? Were you on any kind of schedule? Did you have a plan, or did you basically you felt like, hey, I'm going to work on this today? You know what I mean?
Well, with this dog, I had an idea in my mind what I wanted everything to be. This is my first IGP dog that I raised from puppy.
Mm-hmm.
All my other ones have been reclamation projects, so to speak. 3.5-year-old dogs that had some various problems or others, but were nice, good genetic products, so on and so forth. So or like it's like a 1-year-old dog or something. So I never really had a puppy to start with. So this one was a puppy. So I really put everything into him. So I really wanted a nice fusion of Nepo and emotion enhancing work in every phase. And that's what I focused on. And in some ways I was successful. And in some ways, I feel like I fell a little bit short. So that's kind of that's what we did leading up to the one. The biggest thing that I was looking for him, I used to look at competition and getting my dog out there as I need to set my dog up to try and screw me over, and when he screws me over, I need to make his little world end, and then walk into the competition with that kind of hanging over his head, and that's going to kind of keep it together for me.
Right.
But and that was my old outlook. It kind of worked sometimes and didn't work at all other times, as you can imagine. And then with this dog, I said, I want him to love every phase. I want him to want with all his heart to do everything that we're doing in every phase. That's my goal. Mm-hmm. And if I can do that, I won't ever have to worry about losing him.
Sure.
So that was the whole purpose of my training. So I kind of felt leading up to my one that I was most of the way there. And in some ways I was where I wanted to be, and in other places I wasn't. So
was there any exercises going for your one that you were stressed about, that you worried about?
The send out, which ended up being one of his best ones.
Dude, that's I've seen some of the best in the business at really top level competitions. Their dog just completely blow it. Like that's what's scary. I've seen some greats. Their dog just keeps running or just stops and he's running around. I'm like, holy shit. What's your go-to method for teaching the send out? Do you have more than one thing you do?
So I used to do kind of a gun dog technique where I would take like a pile of balls, put them at the end of the field, send the dog, get the ball, come back, then I'll send him again, and I'll keep sending him repeatedly down the field. He'll bring one ball back to me, and we'll go like that. Mm-hmm. But I found that actually the dogs weren't that fast in the send out. So, I mean, I've just gone to I put a bite pillow out there. He goes, he gets the bite pillow at the end of the field, and then he just has trust and hope that there's a bite pillow there. And I find that for not only my dog, but for other dogs that I've worked with, that is the best that's worked for me so far.
Yeah, I think, of course, I have no experience in this in competition, but I usually like to do a lot of different things when I'm teaching something.
Yeah.
So, of course, I've started with just going out to a ball on a hanging thing, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think Peter Shirk's way of teaching it with digging a hole and putting the bite pillow in it and having someone replace the pillow when the dog's coming back to you and stuff. I think that makes the most sense because the dog thinks there's something down there. And eventually when you get to trial, and I could be totally wrong by this, to me, it just made more sense that the dog eventually has to run without seeing something. You know what I mean? And so I thought as far as the book goes, Successful Together, which is extremely expensive, for me, just that one exercise was worth it for me because that just struck me as that makes a lot of sense. You know, it really does. And so I haven't started using it too much yet, but I will build upon that, you know, for sure. If you could work with one person, anyone in today's current IGP, you could spend 30 days with them just to work, who would it be?
I think for me, it would be Diamond. Just because I listen, there's obviously many world level trainers,
Sure.
but with Diamond, I really like how he looks at it, and he runs a system that to me it makes sense and it jives with what I want. So,
well, he's a pretty intense guy. He's a pretty driven guy too. I've only been around him a couple times, but he's very driven in what he does.
Yeah, like for sure, he'd be a guy that I would spend 30 days with and pick up what I could pick up because you know, he's working a lot of dogs, so it's always good to see a variety of different dogs.
Sure,
you know,
sure. No, yeah, I totally get it, man. That's just. You have any regrets with your career up until this point? Anything you wish you would have done or wouldn't have done? Anything you could change?
I mean, look, for sure, I've been in the past, and maybe probably in the future at some point, I've been unfair to dogs. You know, I've asked more than what they could give, or you know, I've put unfair pressure on the dog in order for the dog to do something that I feel like the dog should do, when really maybe the dog wasn't able to do that at the time.
Sure.
So I would say for sure that's the biggest failure. And you know, as a dog trainer, let's face it, we all have an ego, and we all expect certain things. And when I train with a ton of intention. I expect things to be a certain way. I have a picture in my mind of where I want it to be, and what I expect the dog to do. And a lot of the time that works well, but sometimes it doesn't. And you know, and that's where it's important to obviously have that ability to look at yourself and say, hey, you know, I think you went too far this time, or I think that wasn't fair for that dog, and you need to back off and do it a little bit differently.
Yeah. Why do you prefer verbal markers over clickers?
It's one more thing to carry, and I feel like you can create the same emotion with a verbal marker. I don't use words. I use sounds.
Sure.
So for dogs are big sound, they love sounds. And I like the chip marker because it's a high pitched sound, and dogs love high pitched sounds. So, you know, that's why I do it.
Well, it's funny, and I'm not saying I've never used clickers, but I'm a verbal marker guy too. And the one thing that a lot of clicker trainers have tried to put into my head is, with the clicker, there's no emotion behind it. It's neutral all the time. And with the verbal markers, there could be a lot of emotion. And I said, exactly. That's exactly what I want. You know? And as a matter of fact, if I was teaching one of my dogs, especially Luca, my old Malinois, if I was going to teach him a very complicated behavior, like a reverse handstand or something, I would turn to the clicker. Because there was no emotion behind it, and it didn't fire him up. He was just flatter. So I could mark things with the clicker and not bring the joy and excitement out of him. As to where if I use verbal markers, he's going to think it's the greatest thing in the world, and he's going to just explode, and I don't want him to explode all the time. So I like the emotion behind the verbal markers, you know?
You know, I've actually, it's interesting that you say that. Like, I like that too. But one of the things that I've started doing more and more is just directly rewarding without marking.
Yeah, I do that too. Yep.
Like, I find that in certain circumstances, for certain behaviors, there are times when I want the dog to be super cognizant of every move I'm making, and I want a ton of focus and concentration on a specific point, either on my body or on somewhere in the environment. And that's where the direct reward really creates that, versus marking or clicking.
Sure, absolutely. Now, one of the things that came up, I saw people had questions, and I hope they ask them here. You were one of the people I saw chime in a little bit when it came to the podcast about the whole e-collar thing with me and Ivan.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what your take is on it, but someone was explaining what I do, and I still remember your comment because I thought it was pretty cool, and that's what I liked about you, that you chimed in. You weren't scared, no matter who it was against. You were like, "Yeah, I don't see a problem with that." You know what I mean? What's the big fucking issue here?
Yeah.
You use e-collars in your program. I don't know where we use them differently. I know we do at times, just from people would say.
Yeah.
How do you use them in your program with your pet dogs? And is it different in how you use them with your sport dogs?
It's very different. So with my pet dogs, we go through in the beginning, obviously everything's taught on the leash first. I know I don't think you're a pinch collar guy. I am.
I do now. I do use them a lot more than I used to. And there's yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah. Like I believe me, I'm all about faster and more efficient. So like in my pet dog training, I said, okay, well, let's skip this pinch collar, because I started with the pinch. Then I was like, let's skip the pinch collar. Let's just go right to a slip lead and an e-collar. And I found that it created a lot more stress doing that versus really putting a proper foundation in there with a pinch collar. Because I feel like, especially with clients training the dog, because I feel like people are a lot more cognizant of what they're doing when they're actually pulling on the leash versus when they're pushing a button.
100%. Yeah.
So they're able to graduate their pressure a little more, and it takes a little longer, but the dog learns to react more appropriately to the pressure and become more comfortable with the pressure. So that when you then add the e-collar, so for me, when I add the e-collar, I go through a few weeks of conditioning. E-collar, low level with the known pressure of the leash. Eventually, we fade the leash. Then we move to more intermittent phase, a short intermittent phase, and then just proofing phase with the e-collar.
So we are very similar there. Then we're not very different at all. I think a lot of times people interpret things very differently. Even though I've always tried to be super, super conservative and super clear with things. And so my whole thing was, I think I started in like 2008 making videos about the e-collar stuff. And the whole purpose behind it was strictly to help the everyday dog owner stop frying their dogs. I had seen too many dogs just getting destroyed. That was the whole purpose. You know what I mean? And so I didn't create anything. I didn't invent anything on my own. I definitely think I probably bottled it a little bit and made it a lot simpler for the everyday dog owner.
That's the job.
That's it. And so the way I teach it to people, and I think it's a lot of the way you do too, if I'm doing private lessons with someone, when we get to the e-collar eventually, and they finally go home with the e-collar where they're going to utilize it for the first time, I tell them, listen, this is all you're going to do. It's going to be simple. And I tell them, but you're going to screw this up. You're going to make mistakes all week. Yeah. But the way we're implementing it, you're not going to mess your dog up. Right?
Yes.
I mean, it's that simple.
Yes.
The thing when we did the podcast that you chimed in on, the thing that upset me with that, and I had this conversation with Ivan afterwards a few times, we had good discussion about it. You can't just focus on people who know how to train dogs, high-level dogs, great dogs, good dog trainers. You have to think about the person with the least amount of ability with the shittiest dog. And the second you start telling someone there doesn't need to be any conditioning, you don't have to do this, it's just used as an aversive tool. The issue I have with that, that's how it's been used for the past 50 years.
Yeah.
And has failed hundreds of thousands of dogs because of that, right? And if you know what you're doing really well on the behavior side of things and how dogs learn, you can get away with that. But not many people do. And when you prepare the dog a little bit, just a little bit, there is no doubt in my mind. And when I'm wrong,
Yeah.
I'm going to change because I want the best way possible. You know what I mean? To me, that tool for many people is the one saving grace to keep dogs in the home.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because let's face it, people are going to get dogs, the wrong dogs that are too high energy, too big, too powerful, when you have the person who's too small, too old, too weak. And that's the one thing that could save them. And if you go in just trying to blast the dog for doing things that you don't like, I've never seen it work. I've never seen it work.
It's always, I was really surprised. Like, I don't know kind of listen, I have tons of respect for Ivan, obviously what he's done. Nobody can take that. Nobody can say anything different. And I said that in the video I did on the topic, but he wasn't making any sense to me on that because, I mean, number one, he brought up something that was interesting. Like he said, well, if you use it like that, you're kind of desensitizing the dog to the tool. And if you want to use it to punish something like a dog that's chasing cars, well, then you can't do that, which isn't true, actually.
No,
you certainly can.
It's not true at all. Now, where I will agree with him there, where he is correct, and maybe this is what he meant, if you try to punish behaviors like that on low levels and start low and continue to go high, then he's right, 100%. For one, then you lost the opportunity because your timing is way off. And for two, yes, the dog will adapt to take the highest level correction. Absolutely. But that's not what we were talking about. You know what I mean?
No. And again, that's the age-old argument of because people have a potential to misuse a tool or to misuse a method doesn't invalidate that method or that tool.
Sure.
And, I see a lot more danger in kind of using it the way that he was talking about it. Here, just blast the dog when he's doing something undesirable. Well, now you're really limiting what you can do with that tool.
Sure.
And I see, I get it. You got some old lady and her dog's chasing cars and you want the behavior to stop, but there's so much more that she needs than just that behavior being stopped.
Right.
And the e-collar is going to be an excellent tool in providing all those things that she needs with her dog. And you're kind of hamstringing yourself if you just use the tool as a giant hammer to crush undesirable behaviors.
But here's another issue that not a lot of people talk about, and I haven't heard it mentioned much, and I have brought it up. When we start that conditioning phase, right? Now, someone asked me many times, why do you use the e-collar before and after the command? I only used to use it after, more like Ivan's talking about, right?
Yeah.
The problem is the easiest dog to train with the e-collar and condition with the e-collar is a dog that doesn't listen and doesn't respond. That's the best case scenario. A dog that wants to be at the end of the leash away from you and doesn't listen, right?
Yeah.
Then it doesn't matter if you're utilizing the e-collar before or after. Meaning, if the e-collar comes on first, Rex here, you bring the dog to you, or Rex here, he doesn't come, tap, 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 you help it. Doesn't matter. It's it's negative reinforcement any way you look. But when you have a dog, repetitions matter in teaching a dog, right? When you have a dog that responds a lot all the time, every time you call it, if you're waiting just to utilize that e-collar, to utilize negative reinforcement after the command when the dog doesn't respond, you're missing out on the repetitions you really need to get that dog rock solid literate. And it's something that nobody talks about. You know what I mean? So it's our job to teach the dog how to escape stimulation. That's all it is. Escape avoidance training, negative reinforcement, right? It's our job to show the dog how to escape it, make it very clear. We show them. So later on, the dog knows how to avoid it. But when you have a dog that listens most of the time, and you don't get those repetitions in to teach that dog what that very foreign, weird friggin' sensation is, no matter what levels you're using it, then all of a sudden you need it. It's a crapshoot whether the dog responds the way you need it to. Yeah. And it's something so simple and basic, but we're not talking about. And I will tell you this about Ivan. Ivan's known as one of the top sport dog guys in the world, right? And of course, he's phenomenal. But I could tell you this from taking his course. He's absolutely phenomenal on the behavior side of things. And he doesn't show it much, and he doesn't get much credit, but he understands the science about so much behind things to where he's absolutely phenomenal on the behavior side of things. Phenomenal. And that's something, and I said recently that I think he's better on that side than he is on the sport dog side. And people thought I was fucking crazy. I'm like, no, I'm telling you. I've taken a few things from him that have made me be able to change dogs around that would have taken me a lot longer before. And then when I do it for people, even at seminars, which isn't the ideal place, they're like, what the fuck, but I always give credit. Just like I've done things for years that people couldn't, a police dog, they couldn't get it to out or something. And it's very easy for me to fix. And I say, well, this is just something I got from Bart years ago. It's nothing that I came up with. It's nothing that I came up with, but I'm smart enough to have always tried to learn from the best of the best, whether, and on the sport dog side, like you said earlier, when you throw that into the pet dog side, it makes the pet dog side so much easier for us. So much easier. And so if you don't have the ability to work with high level working dogs, sport dogs, police dogs, whatever, you're hurting yourself. In my opinion, it's really important that you jump onto that side. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it just gives you such a higher order understanding of drives and shaping behaviors and utilizing the drives to create the desired behaviors in specific phases. It's just it's you can't communicate how important it is.
Sure. No, you can't, and that's why I love that you're involved in all of it. You know what I mean? Like the breeding thing, I can never do.
Well, it's certainly interesting, and you get to see dogs from a whole different angle. Because when you breed them, there's always this discussion in the working dog world, and really in the dog world in general. What's genetics? What's learned behavior? To what degree can we influence both? And you really get to see that as a breeder trainer, because now you know the parents, the puppies, you saw the puppy as a puppy, and then you're now dealing with the puppy as a 1-year-old, 2-year-old dog, and you're training the dog, and it's so interesting to see that impact of genetics and learned behavior. And genetics are so, people always get tired of me saying it, but it's like people don't understand how much genetics influence literally everything the dog does.
It's everything. You can't change it. It's there.
No. That's why I laugh. Sometimes people are like, oh, he needs to be rehabilitated. I'm like, rehabilitated? Believe me, he's being his best self right now.
Well, and you probably see this up in Canada. I get everyday average dog owners with 3, 4, 5 kids that go out and get a German short hair pointer, working line dog.
Yeah.
Right. And they don't understand why this dog keeps running away.
Yeah.
So when I take that dog in for a board and train, sometimes I want to blow my brains out because it's obsessed with only pointing at birds. Right.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of control that and train this dog. But you better believe I'm going to give that dog plenty of opportunity to go chase birds, point birds. You have to.
Yeah.
And this is what people have to understand, right? If you have a pit bull, people don't want to face the fact that this dog was bred to kill other dogs, to fight dogs.
Yeah.
Can we allow that dog to express his genetics and go fight dogs? No. But you better damn well learn how to play with that dog and let him bite shit and learn how to play with him in a way that allows him to fulfill what he's bred to do.
Yeah.
And people don't want to face the reality of this stuff. You know what I mean? And if they just understand a little bit of how strong genetics are, they'd stop getting these dogs. Listen, I wish they would ban people from getting German Shepherds. I really do. Because I see more shitty German Shepherds between bad breeding and going to the wrong homes. It's so unfair to, what's arguably the greatest breed ever created. And it's just not fair to the animal. It's just not fair. And they can't understand why my dog bites strangers. Well, why wouldn't he bite strangers? He doesn't get to do anything he was meant to do. You have a brilliant dog, a dog that's so highly intelligent and driven to do things, and you got him tied to a tree in your yard while you're at work all day, and then you maybe come out and bring him in the house to sleep on your bed at night. It's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a really big problem. But
people don't honor the original purpose of the dog, and then there's many breeders that do their very best to provide a dog that doesn't honor its original purpose either, because they're trying to satisfy that market of people that want the look without the utility. And it's a sad thing, and it creates a lot of these dogs that are kind of it's sad to see dogs like that. And we see way too many of these German Shepherds, poor nerves, afraid of everything, and then people buy these dogs and they bring them to a guy like me and they say, okay, man, like I want this dog to be a protection dog.
Yeah, protection dog. I was just going to say, yeah.
Yeah, she's afraid of everything, but can you make her not afraid of everything and then teach her to bite and all this stuff? But
yeah.
You can just see their faces fall when you give them the truth. And it's like, I'm sorry, you want a race, but you don't have a race car.
Yeah. I tell my breeder, Dante's breeder, my buddy Terry, all the time. I said, Terry, you did good. You did like this dog's nerves and his temperament. I don't care if there's a 3-year-old kid he's never met running across the street to come say hi to him. I don't even blink. I don't even worry about it, And it's so nice to have that. It's so absolutely incredible to have that, Just an incredible dog. Favorite movie of all time?
That's a tough one. I haven't watched one I like in a long time. Blade.
Never saw it.
Oh, the first Blade was off the hook. I love that movie.
Favorite musician of all time or band?
I like Disturbed.
I don't know that either. You're just off the chart for. I have no idea who that is. I'm old though, I guess.
Heavy metal,
Okay. Well, I like some heavy metal. I'm a big Metallica fan. I love Metallica. You do any hunting up there?
No, I'm not. Personally, I'm not a hunter. I just don't have the time to dedicate to it, and I don't actually really like game meat.
Yeah.
So I just don't like the taste. I've always wanted. I've been interested in the bird dog stuff, but I've refrained from it because I'm like, well, I wouldn't eat the bird, so it's not right to shoot something if you're not going to eat it.
Well, listen, I'm a big deer hunter. I donate all the deer meat, all the deer that I shoot, I donate to people who need it. Every single bit of it. Every now and then I'll give some to friends.
Oh.
Pheasant and turkey is delicious. Not gamey. Like absolutely delicious. So that may be a little different on your end there.
You know what? I have had wild turkey, and it is fantastic. I will say that. Yes.
Yeah.
Let's say, have you noticed something? I mean, we haven't really said anything offensive to this point, and I'm feeling like we're not really delivering on what people were expecting. Have you noticed that the majority of good dog trainers have a fair bit of politics in common? And have you ever reflected on why that might be?
Yes, because I hate using the term balanced trainer. I despise it, right? I was
Yes.
literally started writing something about that today. But your typical trainer that utilizes everything they know, oh, we're going to really piss a lot of people off here, is more on the conservative side of things, has a little more common sense about everything.
Yes.
As to where you're, hey, the dog's eating your face. All you have to do is turn your back and throw a treat between your legs and blow a couple fairy farts and everything go away. That's your far left liberal friggin' douchebags. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the dog world is very, very much like that. If you look at some of these people that are so far gone on how to help these dogs, I guarantee you they voted for Joe Biden. And they still think that he's a capable human being when anyone with half a brain knows that he has completely destroyed our country. He destroyed our country within 6 months. Think about that. Within 6 months, he destroyed the world's strongest economy in the history of the world. In 6 months, destroyed it.
It was impressive. It was impressive to watch. I actually didn't think he could do it that quick.
That's your purely positive trainer. That's what Joe Biden is. Okay. And Kamala Harris is Victoria Stilwell. 100.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what that is.
Well, I've always thought it's because, and it's basically like what you're saying. If you're a good dog trainer that's good in more than just one myopic category of dog training, AKA like if you're a really good agility trainer, that's great, but it's one category. Like if you're kind of more good across the board, so to speak, you can't afford to look at things for how you wish they are. You have to look at things for how they actually are.
Sure.
And you have to accept reality.
I don't know if you see the news on like what goes on with the crime down here, the people that are being killed, what's going on in our big cities.
Yeah.
It's this. We just had 2 people in Memphis. Well, not 2 people, several people. One woman got kidnapped when she was out jogging and got killed. This guy should have been locked up forever for doing shit like that before, and he served a year in jail back on the street.
Yeah.
Then we had some guy go live on Facebook yesterday and killed 4 or 5 people. And in his mugshot, he's as happy as could be, smiling, because they keep letting these motherfuckers out on the street without doing any time. You go to New York City, you can't go there anymore. It's destroyed because of these jerk-offs where there's no bail policy anymore. It doesn't matter what you do. You can't get locked up. You can't get locked up. And I just hope that these scumbags pay the price in November when these elections come about, because it's disgusting what they've done to this country. It really is.
Well, I always say, like, here, I watched it all during COVID, and, I watched most of my countrymen, going along, and not only going along, actively aiding and abetting the state in the dispossession of our rights and freedoms. And I said, this is what the people deserve. This is what the people want. And it's kind of like, what are you going to do? This is the world we live in. These are the people these are who people actually believe and support, and it is what it is.
Yeah, but you want to know something? I'm not going to mention any names, This is what I've realized lately. I have some family and friends that are crazy liberal, right? Like anti-gun, anti-everything, right? You're 2 years old, you have a penis. If you want to call it a vagina, it's okay. Whatever you want, anything goes. But then I realized something. I had the news on one day, and they showed something about Seattle, and it showed how like 350 cops walked off the job or something because they just couldn't take it anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I'm with someone here who's very liberal, and they were blown away. Like, oh my God, what's going on up there? Why would they do that? And I just looked, and then I realized they have no fucking idea what's going on. It's very easy to be liberal. Okay.
Yeah.
You are purposely stupid. That's what you're doing. You're purposely stupid, and you watch The View for your news. It's absolutely, you watch the world's dumbest human beings telling you what they want you to know instead of venturing out and learning and paying attention to as much. Look, You got the mayors of, like, say, Chicago and New York. They have sanctuary cities where they won't deal with the feds. If an illegal alien slices the throat of a 3-year-old child, they're not going to deal with the feds and do what has to be done, right? They're going to protect them, which is insane. But now that we have hundreds of thousands of people coming across the border every single month, and Texas is destroyed and overrun. So now when the governor of Texas starts sending buses to New York and Chicago, how dare you? You're a racist. Why are you sending them here? Listen, motherfucker, you wanted them. Where do you want them to go? It's okay for the White House to fly them in the middle of the night to Nashville and upstate New York and to Illinois and every place else. That's okay. But when the governor of Texas does it publicly, now it's a problem all of a sudden.
I think it is. It's a cowardice. It's because, look, if you accept that, there are people that are actually doing things that they're lying to you. They're doing things like what you're describing with the immigration to influence and co-opt the political process in order to garner votes and have, take power. If people accept these kinds of things, it's a scary world. Things get a lot scarier. Whereas if you say, okay, I'm going to believe most of what the media tells me at face value. I'm going to believe the things that, Joe Biden's saying or Justin Trudeau's saying. Well, then the world's a little bit simpler and it's a safer place. So it's kind of like a child, like I want to believe in Santa and I want to believe in the tooth fairy and everything's warm and fuzzy and nothing's difficult or scary. And I think, it's very scary for people to actually accept that there are many people out there that are truly evil, and that will do literally anything for power, up to and including lying to you about, just about everything from the pandemic to the immigration to racism to just about anything you can think of.
Listen, Haz, I just retired last year after 25 years as a federal agent. I started my career on the Mexican border, and I got these fucking mamalukes that want to tell me what it's like on the border and argue with me about what I've seen down there. Think about this. This guy from Bosnia, wherever he's from, this tennis player, #1 player in the world, one of the best in the world.
Yeah.
He's denied coming to play at the US Open because he's not vaccinated.
Yeah.
You got tens of thousands of illegal aliens coming from all over God's creation every fucking day across the border and then shipped all over the United States, not vaccinated and loaded with plenty of diseases. I know, I've been there, I've seen it, and that's okay. Think about the insanity of that. My wife is just entered the room and she's staring at me, crossing her arms, telling me enough. Listen, I'm at my friend's limit. I need to lose some tonight, and I need to lose some liberal friends. Sorry, liberal friends, you destroyed our country. You got to go. I need room for more normal people with half a brain.
Make sure you buy Larry's book on the way out.
Yeah, my wife's whispering over there.
I wanted to talk to you about one thing.
Sure.
The bonker.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the bonker.
Sure.
What do you think of it?
I don't use it. I don't do it.
Why don't you do it?
I'm not a big fan of hitting a dog with anything that's standing next to me. Not at all.
That's standing next to you?
Yes, within my proximity. Now, with that being said, I have no issue with throwing something across a room at a dog to interrupt the behavior, right? But as far as having a dog on a leash, off a leash, next to me, hitting it overhead to stop a behavior, I'll never do it. I have no reason to do it. I don't need to do it. I think it could lead to bigger issues. And I'm sure it could be effective for some dogs, but it's not my thing. I think you're going to sever a lot of trust there in many dogs. And I think you're going to sever the trust of many people if they ever see it. So I never want to do anything that I wouldn't do in public. And I literally don't do anything behind closed doors that I don't do in public.
Sure. Well, I've certainly bonked a bunch of dogs in public.
Yeah, someone brought that question up. Actually, they wanted us to talk. So I'm glad you actually brought it up. You know.
Here's why I use it. So I don't use it like I don't do like I know the guy who came up with it. I think it's Gary Wilkes.
Sure.
I know he does a rolled up towel. I don't do the rolled up towel because for me it's too heavy. So if you catch the dog in the leg or something, you could possibly maybe injure the dog. I use a jug, like a windshield washer jug, and I put some rocks in it. So it's like a shaker jug, kind of.
Gotcha.
And then, I go through the whole mark no and toss the jug at the dog, create that inhibition there, and then utilize it as necessary. Now, I certainly don't use it with a lot of my clients, but I do use it with some of my clients.
Yeah, and someone said something too about the e-collar where me and you are different. And I said, look, guys, I said, none of us are the same.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we do all the things the same. You know what I mean? You're never going to find two trainers that do everything the same. When it comes to the bonker, I hate even the name of it. And look, here's a big thing too. I think a big part of the reason why I really despise it, and I know plenty of trainers that use it, and I know plenty of trainers that use it that the public would be shocked that use it. They really would, right? But they hide it. They're not comfortable doing it. I think anything that a couple of popular trainers here in the States, YouTube trainers, have relied on so much, I made sure I stayed far away from.
I get it.
And that's why I didn't use prong collars for so long, right? And so I made a video a few years back why I don't use prong collars. And I even said in the video, like, hey, prong collar is a great tool. I have nothing against it. Like, it's a really good tool. I just don't use them.
Yes.
I caught so much heat from from people you can't imagine. Like, they were furious because, like, and I talk about this lady all the time, the arrogance. Called me, ripping me apart. Now her clients want to know if I don't use it, why does she? Well, that's a problem and trust that they have with you. That's not my problem. You know what I mean? And I said, did you listen to the video? Like, I actually say it's a great tool. Use it. I just don't use them, with the bonker. And a big part of the anti-prong collar thing with me, I had a real issue with the YouTube trainers charging people $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, throwing a prong collar on their dog and an e-collar on their dog, and they can't teach a pet dog to walk next to them without utilizing those tools. I had such a problem with that. So I went for about, good night, babe. I went for about, I went for about 2 years where a lot of the videos I made, I was just so negative in everything I said, and I lost a lot of followers during that time because they got sick of hearing the negativity. And what it came down to was everything I was doing was trying to combat what these two fuckers were doing to people and destroying a lot of dogs. And then I realized by being such a negative prick, I'm not helping anyone.
That's right.
So I said, instead of talking negative about what others are doing, and I never use names, I said, you know what? I'm going to just start showing what I do and let people choose. That was it. You know what I mean? So I'm a big proponent of tossing something at a dog to interrupt the behavior. That's very, very effective, especially if you can't hurt the dog with what you're doing.
Yeah.
But the way some of these guys are whacking dogs over the head and using poor timing. And here's the thing, a lot of the people that made it popular, not all of them, have absolutely zero ability to teach a dog how to do something or to stop a dog how to do something. And so I just stayed so far away from that. You know what I mean?
Well, there's certainly always the people that make it all about the tool instead of using the tool to amplify their ability as a trainer.
Sure.
And those are the prong collar jockeys and the e-collar jockeys and whatever else. But, all these tools, obviously, all they are is they're just enhancing your ability to impact the dog's behavior in one way or another. And, for me, I'll tell you, I experimented a lot with the bonker, and I used it in different ways. And for sure, it has many limitations. But for some dogs, I found, there was no better, and I would say more humane form of positive punishment than the bonker. Now, it has limitations, of course, but that's the reason why I will sometimes use it for certain individuals.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Something, and I won't get into it here in publicly, but the people at my seminars understand what I'm talking about. I paid a lot of money for Ivan's course, right? $10,000 I paid for his course. It's a very good course.
Yeah.
The thing that I don't like about the course is you lose access to it after a year. And for that kind of money, I should have it forever.
I agree.
That bothers me, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, and I've known this for a long time, but there were little things that I learned from Ivan that changed everything on my ability to deal with difficult dogs and stop behaviors. The majority of trainers, when they think they're utilizing punishment, in reality, because they live through the definitions of the 4 quadrants, right? And I start off every seminar like this now because we spent all weekend going over it because people have so many questions. If you ask a trainer to recite the 4 quadrants, a lot of people can rattle off the definitions like perfectly, But then when you ask them to give you examples, the difference between negative reinforcement and punishment, they really struggle, It doesn't make sense to them. Because in reality, in a nutshell, like I said, I won't go too deep into it here. Most people that think they're using punishment are really only utilizing negative reinforcement.
For sure.
Right? The dog always has the advantage because you give it the ability to escape or to avoid. Yeah. And when you start showing people this, and when you teach people that when it comes to actual punishment, that the dog truly can escape it, that's the difference between negative reinforcement and punishment. Then utilizing e-collars and bonkers and everything else to really stop difficult behaviors, it's not necessary anymore. And that's the one thing that I always give Ivan credit for. And it's why I don't show it in videos, because I was doing something similar for a very long time, but I knew there was something I was missing. I always knew there was something I was missing to make it better, right? And when I went through his course and we started focusing on this, like the second he hit on it, I literally said, motherfucker. Like I was texting him. I'm like, that's it. That's the part I was missing this whole time. That is it. And I knew immediately before ever doing it that it was going to change everything. And it has. It has changed absolutely everything. Where there's much less force used, there's no e-collars involved, there's no bonkers involved. It's very easy. But when the dog is presented with actual punishment over negative reinforcement, when you see the changes in the behaviors you want to get rid of, it's fucking mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. And so that's the whole reason why I don't give it away. It's like the only thing I don't share for free. And it's only because I made those changes off of what I took for him, and he sells a course. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, you can't blow his stuff.
Yeah, I won't do that. I'll always be respectful of it. And I've told him before, this is probably the most powerful thing I've ever learned in dog training. And now, with that being said, if I work with a client or you come to my seminar, I told him I'm obligated. When someone pays me to help them, I am obligated to show them everything I know. So I'll never hide that. You know what I mean? And so I think I'm being very, very fair when it comes to that. Even though I could have said, hey, I don't have access to anything anymore. There's nothing. I might as well just show everything now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
but that's it. What was your first introduction to the bonker?
I experimented with it so for a lot of things, any kind of dog training thing that sounds interesting to me, any methodology, I'll always experiment with it. And I always have tons of opportunities to experiment because we have so many dogs in and out of here all the time. Um, so, I mean, it's hard to remember the first time I bonked a dog, to be honest with you. It's something I certainly refined, and I got off the rolled up towel real quick because I'm like, this is missing something for me. And then when I used the shaker chug and there's the noise in there, the noise really magnified
Sure.
The psychological impact on the dog. And it allowed you, as someone who's bonking the dog, you don't even have to really catch the dog with it. Even if it lands in the vicinity of the dog, in many cases, just the noise was enough. It's like a grenade,
Sure, absolutely.
And it just what created a terminal end to whatever behavior was being targeted. The one thing I really liked about the bonker was, number one, no physical impact on the dog. And then number two, somebody who's weak can use it very effectively if it's been preconditioned properly.
Sure.
So, you got some old lady with two big dogs that are fighting, not in and of itself, with nothing else done, is it effective, but it can certainly part of the solution. Hey, you need to basically fire hose this dog fight or put an end to it before it gets started. I like using it in that context because it creates a complete suppression when used properly in the vast majority of arousal that docs are experiencing.
Sure. And here's the thing, though, you have a lot of knowledge when it comes to training dogs, right? You do. You understand how to teach things at a high level. A lot of these people that will jump on these new things like bonking, they have no ability to teach behaviors, to work with high level dogs, to stop behaviors.
For sure.
And it's not just bonking, it's e-collars and prong collars and everything in between, And so they just look for the quick fix, but they don't understand the theory of learning behind the animal. It doesn't matter which technique or method or anything they use, they're going to make things worse because they don't know everything they've done before, let's say the bonking, and everything they've done after.
Yes.
It's not beneficial to the animal. It's just not.
I agree, but it's like that with literally everything. I mean, me and you can sit here and talk about tools, and I could be like, "Holy crap, that's a really good tool," or you can be like, "That's a really good tool," and somebody's listening and they don't maybe have the same understanding of dog behavior and dog training, and they'll just take that same tool and fuck it all up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, let's face it. Like a big segment of the purely positive community think we're using e-collars and prong collars to teach obedience, right? Like that's what they imagine.
Yes.
They imagine that you're going to teach, I've heard it a million times. I hear people say, I don't need an e-collar to teach my dog to sit. Yeah, no fuck. No one does. If you think that's what people are doing, you're in the dark. Open your eyes a little bit and work with other people, which, by the way, I get purely positive trainers at my seminars all the time. And they're like, I had no idea. This is not what I expected. It used to be, I came here to hate you and disrupt things. I didn't know that's how you guys use tools. Dead serious.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, that's why anyone is welcome. You're not going to see anything bad here. Now, you said something. You said you don't remember the first dog you bonked.
Yeah.
I guarantee you remember the first woman you bonked.
But I try not to.
No, I totally get it. But yeah, there's so much miscommunication in the dog world for everything, and when it comes down to it, look, it's like you get into the whole thing of your dog sleeping on your bed and the furniture. I don't give a damn what your dog does if you don't have any problems, right?
Yeah.
I don't care. Let your dog do whatever you want if you don't have any problems. But if you have problems, we got to make some changes.
Absolutely.
It's just that simple. You know what I mean? Just
people look for panaceas and people look for ironclad rules, and in dog training there isn't any. There's no magic device, there's no magic method, and there's no magic rule. Like it's like it what works for one doesn't necessarily work for another. But
no, 100%. But that's what separates the great trainers has from everybody else. They don't do one thing. They're not living in a system or a technique or a tool or a method. They look at that dog and they figure out what that particular dog needs. And most great so-called balanced trainers that I know are doing most things in a very purely positive fashion, you
yeah,
know? And what a lot of people don't understand on that side, the purely positive side, when you utilize purely positive training with negative reinforcement training, it's a beautiful thing.
you're hitting the afterburners.
Oh, it's so powerful.
Yeah,
It's so powerful. And it's never detrimental to the dog when done correctly, not even close. And that's what they're missing out on. That's what they don't understand. You know what I mean?
yes,
But what are they going to do if someone's trying to ban an e-collar or a prong collar? They're not showing my videos. They're not showing your videos. They're showing the video of the guy that's destroying a dog.
yeah,
And you can't blame the general public for saying, oh my gosh, yes, ban these tools. You can't blame it. It's
yes.
because that's what they see. That's all they know, you know?
Absolutely. But it's one of those things where, you know, again, it's one of those things where it's for me, there's that side of it, but then it's also understanding that, you can't really negotiate with terrorists. I feel like a lot of these people are on the level of a religious extremist.
100%.
There's
Yes.
nothing you can say, do, or show that's going to stop them from going out there, finding that confirmation bias and pushing their ideological agenda.
Dude,
So,
you're 100% right. Mm-hmm.
it's for me, it's one of those things. And I always say this, it's like, I don't try to pretend that what I do is devoid of any kind of stress. For
Mm-hmm.
sure, there's elements of the training that involve stress, and much of that stress is very intentional. But stress is an essential part of any learning process. There's a reason we feel stress. It's a biological imperative. It's a survival mechanism. And to not use it in the training of any one or any animal, it makes absolutely no sense. It's simply like saying, well, he feels just as you feel pleasure when you're getting something desirable, you also feel a form of pleasure when you avoid something stressful, and it's a different kind of
Do you
pleasure.
you want to create a confident, strong, happy dog? Teach him how to get through the stress.
Huge.
You
And
want to create a complete basket case with no confidence, scared of the world? Let that dog avoid stress.
yes,
Has
I
to be.
saw I saw this. There was this. I don't even know how I happened to be on this Instagram page of this positive only trainer. So she has like this dog, and she posted, "Oh, he was too stressed today, so we didn't go to the park. We just let him stay home and take the day off because he got too stressed on the walk to the park." And I'm like, this poor dog, you know, he's living this like horrific life where he's being, he's so limited in what he can't even make it to the park because
Yeah.
he thinks
Poor
he's
thing.
having a panic attack. What kind of a life is that?
Listen,
You
I tell
know?
you what kind of life is that. It's the kind of life where everyone gets a trophy today. Everyone. Everyone gets a trophy. I was just talking to someone today who told me they tried to send, actually, it was my brother. He was trying to send his daughter flowers on like Valentine's Day, right? To
Yeah,
school. He couldn't do it. They wouldn't let him because they don't want any other kids who don't get flowers to feel bad. Like, what the what? Why? Like, how did we come to this? How did we get to this point? You know what I mean? It just,
Insane.
when I was a kid, I was involved in all sports. That was my life. You didn't get a trophy if you didn't win. If you didn't come in first place, you got shit. That's all there was to it. You know, we didn't go home and suffer and struggle. Today, it doesn't matter if you come in 85th place out of 86 teams, you're getting a trophy. You're getting a trophy.
You know what keeps me in IGP is the fact that I haven't stood on the podium.
Sure.
That's what really motivates me some days. And I'm like, if everybody got a trophy, you know, if everybody, regardless of their performance, was being given some accolade, I would have zero interest in it.
That's that dopamine release that you get for hoping that one day you get up there. That's it.
It's not a resentment when you don't. It's an understanding that that person and that person did more to get there.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody's achieving some accolade or success that you don't have, you understand, like a reasonable person that has their wits about them understands that it's simply that person did more.
Yeah. Well, listen, you got to remember, today I could drive down the street any day of the week and there's going to be someone wearing a mask in their car by themselves.
I call them maskies.
That's great. I can't. I will beep the horn, and when they look at me, I'll go, "Hey, nice mask. You're amazing. You're amazing. Thank you. Thank you for protecting us all." It's
sometimes when they walk into the dog training facility and they're wearing the mask, my heart sinks. I'm like, "Oh no,
you're in trouble."
No,
you know that's going to be a problem.
It's going to be a tough session.
you just know. Well, listen. I want to be respectful of your time. We're on for an hour and 37 minutes. I could talk to you all night long. There's no doubt about it. Tell everyone where they could find you, everything. And like I said, I've heard nothing but great things about your online course, dude. Like, really good stuff.
I appreciate it, man. I'm glad so many people are having success with it. When I put it together, I was questioning whether people could really train dogs online. Like, obviously, as a professional trainer, I've certainly bought courses like, from guys like Ivan. I've bought like different little training videos and all that type of stuff. But I have some clue, you know what I mean? So when I put it together, my goal was to create something that about 95% of people could watch and do something productive with. Yeah. So that was my goal, and I'm happy that there's people that are experiencing success out there with it. They can see me on. You guys can find me on YouTube, Shield Canine Dog Training. I'm not posting as many videos as I used to, but I still post there.
By the way, let me apologize for interrupting you.
Go for it.
When you made that video, had a lot of respect for you, dude, because I've been there. You talked about not posting stuff and making videos because you found there was a time where you were just putting shit out because you felt like you had to.
Yeah.
I've been there. That's really important. So lately I've been putting out a lot of stuff because I've had something to say.
Yes.
I went for a long time without doing anything because I had said it all before. And there was a time, where I was making videos because, just like you said, people were saying, "Hey, dude, you're dropping off, your algorithm," or whatever they call it, is going to go down. And all of a sudden you feel like you have to put something out. And when you do that and it's so inorganic, it's bullshit stuff. It sucks. Yeah. So hats off to you for touching on that. I commented on your video because I got it. And that's real shit right there. I knew you were speaking the truth. And when you start putting stuff out, listen, the difference between people like yourself and myself, there's a lot of people out there that have much bigger social media followings than me and you. The difference is a lot of those people every day are trying to be bigger.
Yes.
We spend our time trying to be better. And there's a big difference in that. There's a really big, so much respect to you, and apologize for interrupting you, but ton of respect for you for talking about that, dude.
Man, I appreciate it. Like I said, I had a decision to make. Am I a social media influencer or am I a dog trainer?
Right.
And dog training got me where I am, and that's what I'm focusing on. So, I like what you said. I do my best stuff when I feel like doing it. So, it was kind of a little funny though, because like they say, like in terms of like, for instance, working out, you don't feel like working out, you better go and freaking work out or you're never going to work out.
That's right.
So I was kind of having a bit of that mentality when it came to the social media. I'm like, you got to do it, but I think that I felt like the quality was really falling off. So, I just made that decision, stop training,
Love it. Much respect. Love it, brother. Really do. Hey, this was great. I enjoyed this conversation. The next time you come down to work with Hansel, please tell me, because I will pay him also and come down and spend some time and work with you guys. I need all the help I can get on the damn sport dog side of things,
For sure, man. I'll drop you a line. I want to be down there hopefully before the end of this year again. So we'll see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, and best of luck to you. I hope you get up on that podium, because I think doing it with the dog that you bred is even that much more special.
That's the hope. And I see the work you're doing with your guy too, man. It's looking pretty good.
Well, I'm having a good time with him. I'm just having fun with him. And when we train, but when we play, we play. And that might bite me in the ass later on. But I shouldn't say this out loud, but like I'm already thinking about my next puppy. So my wife just said no. The wheels are already turning. I know where I should have. I'd be tracking from 8 weeks old. 8 weeks old, we'd be tracking every day. There's no doubt about it. But I'm going to let you get going. I appreciate your time, buddy. Like I've been really looking forward to this, and I hope we get to meet up real soon and hang out and train some dogs.
For sure, brother. Will do. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it, pal. Have a good night. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us. You all have a good one. Peace.